Welcome to MPT's live coverage of the governor's State of the State address. Right now in the House of Delegates chamber, members of the General Assembly are coming together in joint session to hear what will be Governor Wes Moore's second State of the State speech. Hello from the first floor of the Maryland State House in Annapolis. I'm Jeff Salkin, joined by MPT legislative correspondent Charles Robinson. Charles, what do we expect to hear from the governor today?
First of all, he is going to lay out the plan for which a number of issues. To give you an example, we've got a budget, and initially it wasn't balanced. It is balanced today, or at least till the legislators get a chance to take a look at it. The other part of that is we're going to have some stringent and tough laws concerning juvenile justice, as well as reforms to some of the programs that the state has had some issues with. Understand this state, while crime is down, the perception is that crime is not being solved, and that's a bigger problem.
Following the governor's address, we'll bring you a Republican view of the state of the state, that to be delivered by Senator Steve Hershey. We asked a group of Marylanders what issues they would like to hear the governor address in the State of the State. Well, if we're coming out to that, maybe let's talk about the procedure. And taking a look inside the House of Delegates chamber right now, members of the state Senate have come in and they have taken their seats. Also in attendance, members of the governor's cabinet, some county executives, former Governor Paris Glendening we saw, and other dignitaries. The governor talked for about half an hour last year. We understand it'll be a little bit shorter this year, but one thing we understand he will talk about a lot is working in partnership with the legislature. You know how there's always distinguished guests in the balcony that we'll have a shot of to illustrate certain initiatives of the administration. All of those people this year were selected by legislators and suggested to the administration. So heavily focused on partnership, working with lawmakers.
One of the things you will note in this administration is, unlike the previous administration that never testified on bills, this governor has planned to at least testify on 2 bills and even more possibly. These are initiatives that he has championed. One of those is called the Enough Act, which is an overall initiative to look at how do we streamline, make Marylanders safer, how do we make police efficient, and to kind of answer some of the questions that's been lurking in the background. Can you do better? Because eventually, when we come to year 2, we're going to have a problem with the structural deficit. And understand this right now, this state is not interested in new taxes.
The governor, of course, is a newcomer to politics. He's been governor just over a year now. This is his second legislative session. Previously led a large anti-poverty organization, the Robin Hood Foundation, based in New York. previously in the Army, a Rhodes Scholar, and
he checks all the boxes.
I
think he checks the boxes of, you want somebody smart? We got that. You want somebody who has military experience? Got that one too.
Well, and the golden resume, and the fact that he is the nation's only elected black governor now, only the third in history, means that he's talked about for higher office all the time. You'll see him on the Sunday talk shows as a surrogate for the Biden campaign. He's effective in that role. Personal popularity, the last poll was about a 60% approval rating. The governor has not had to deal with a lot of controversy. As Charles mentioned, we started with a budget surplus in his first year. Now the projections are a little gloomier, a little bit of red ink on the horizon, and this at a time when Maryland has either the nation's lowest unemployment rate or close to it, under 2%. It's come down a full point in the last year, while the national unemployment rate has stayed stable. Let's dig into some of these budget issues a little bit more and how the state may deal with it. Charles filed this report when the governor unveiled his budget.
Members of the Maryland General Assembly, the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Maryland, Aruna Miller.
There is Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller being introduced in the House chamber, and now the Governor of Maryland.
General Assembly, the Governor of the great state of Maryland, Wes Moore.
At the podium were an apology to the Speaker of the House, Adrian Jones, for taking so long to make it from the door to the podium, because the governor has a lot of handshakes to do, and maybe some selfies. Last year there were definitely selfies. We'll see about this year. Last year I timed it. It was 2.5 minutes of selfies and handshakes to get the governor to the podium. We should do this like Olympic speed skating and see if he's on the pace of last year or a little bit ahead.
Well, he's halfway through, and he's still got a lot more hands to shake. But let me talk a little bit about the wins that this governor has had. First and foremost, the most recent one is getting the Orioles to sign a lease. Now, they haven't completed the entire deal, but that's a win because there was questions as to whether or not the governor had the chutzpah, if you will, of actually cutting a deal with the Angelos family, which owns the Orioles.
I'll tell you this, I wondered at the time, because the governor had a deal, and it included what the Angelos family wanted, which was development rights around the ballpark, and legislative leaders balked at that. Senate President Bill Ferguson in particular, leading to basically shelving that deal. It was maybe the first bump in the road for the governor's honeymoon with the legislature, and of course he's the first Democrat to hold this office since the 2 terms, the 8 years of Governor Hogan. There are some members of the governor's cabinet, governor's appointments secretary, and other members of the team, the transportation secretary. We will be providing a sign language interpretation of the speech. I believe that's the signer and now the governor of Maryland, Wes Moore.
Good afternoon. Madam Speaker, Mr. President, Madam Lieutenant Governor, members of the General Assembly, members of our congressional delegation, colleagues in state and local government, and my fellow Marylanders. 1 year ago, we began our work together. And we knew that while we had boundless opportunities in this state, and we had blinding potential in this state, we also knew that we were leaving too much potential on the table. And 1 year later, we still got work to do. We learned a lot of lessons, some hard lessons. But solving big problems does not happen overnight. But let's be clear, a change is happening. And today, the state of our state, it is strong. We've announced the creation of nearly 40,000 new jobs, many of them in communities that have been historically left behind. We have the lowest unemployment rate in the country for the 5th month in a row. Crime is down across the state, and homicides in Baltimore City are the lowest that they have been in 9 years. And communities that have been underestimated and undervalued now have an important seat at the table in the halls of power. So, I'm proud. I'm proud of what we are doing. But most importantly, I'm proud of how we're doing it. The executive and the legislature are working together again. And it feels good. We choose to sweat the details of governing, knowing that our constituents deserve nothing less. And by moving in partnership, we have helped to make life easier for the people that we are here to serve. We have launched a full frontal assault on child poverty that will lift a combined 160,000 children up the rung on the economic ladder. We've returned stolen SNAP benefits to our most vulnerable, to thousands of Marylanders who are living paycheck to paycheck. We've protected 5,000 Maryland children who are at risk of having their Medicaid coverage taken away. We've worked with farmers and watermen to get healthy meals to food deserts. We've positioned Maryland to meet our climate goals and lead in the cleanup of the Chesapeake Bay. Importantly, we got together and we got some big stuff done. But the truth is, these are not just our wins. These are Maryland's wins. Now, I know I talk a lot about partnership. And I know if the state received a nickel for every time I said the word partnership, we would have all of our budget issues solved. Right, Senator Hershey? But let's be clear, partnership is not the goal. Fulfilling the promise of Maryland is the goal. Partnership is how we're going to get there. Because for too long, we have watched how the executive would pick fights with the legislature in the media instead of showing real leadership and engagement in the State House. So we've decided. We're going to move differently. And our state is going to be better because of it. The challenges will be shared. The setbacks will be shared. But the victories, they'll be shared too. We can't agree on everything, and we won't. The truth is, it would be weird if we did. But we can and we will work together to achieve common goals. And I want to talk about some of those shared goals today. Tomorrow, our administration will unveil our plan to guide our work together. Tomorrow, we will unveil our state plan, and it is the first state plan that this state has had in nearly a decade. It doesn't just set the agenda for the next 3 months, it will chart the course that we will take for the next 3 years. And our state plan is about much more than just aspirational targets. The plan that we are going to lay out, it will lay out specific, actionable, realistic, and measurable goals. And we've built these priorities by listening to the people who sent us here in the first place, our constituents. Last year, we went to your districts with you. We toured an electric vehicle plant in Hagerstown, and we sat down with students in Glen Burnie to talk about gun violence. We drove tractors with farmers on the Eastern Shore. By the way, some of those tractors are pretty bad. And we grieved together in Washington County after the tragic and unconscionable killing of Judge Andrew Wilkinson. In our first year, we've traveled with all of you to all 24 jurisdictions in the state of Maryland, and we listened to the people together. Our state plan is not a reflection of my aspirations, it's not a reflection of our aspirations. It's a reflection of theirs. And today, I want to talk a little bit about what we heard. First, we heard that the people of our state want to make Maryland safer. Public safety remains this administration's top priority, and that will not change. We will protect Marylanders where they live, where they work, where they worship, and where they go to school. And hate has no home in the state of Maryland. But if you talk to people in our neighborhoods, they'll tell you this isn't a discussion that can happen in absolutes. That we need to move beyond the simplicity of how pundits talk about public safety and move towards a complexity of how people experience public safety. Because the truth is that the sound of a police siren does have a different pitch depending on the neighborhood that you grow up in. I felt handcuffs on my wrist when I was 11 years old because our community was over-policed and we knew it. However, we still wanted to feel protected from violent crime and people who would have harm in our communities. That people shouldn't have to choose between feeling safe in their skin and feeling safe in their communities. Yet these are the kinds of false choices that dominate the public safety debate. Do you support law enforcement, or do you want to build stronger neighborhoods? Do you want to hold criminals accountable, or do you want to focus on rehabilitation? We're told to pick a side, oftentimes by people who frankly do not have an interest in solving the problem. And so to break these false choices, we need everybody at the table. Our administration will continue an all-of-the-above approach to public safety. We will listen to law enforcement, and we will listen to the communities that they protect. We will listen to states' attorneys, and we will listen to the public defenders. We will listen to elected leaders, and we will listen to local advocates. We're up against a new challenge, and we need to come up with these new solutions. Our state is facing a record of high vacancies in public safety jobs. We need to address them, and we will, with legislation that we've introduced. Marylanders are seeking justice for victims of crime, more accountability for people who break the law, and better rehabilitation for our children. We must answer them, and we will, by working in partnership with the General Assembly. Neighborhoods are calling for us to get these illegal guns off of our streets and out of our neighborhoods. And for bringing consequences to those who do not hear us loud enough. And we must hear them. And we have. And I'm proud that Maryland will be the first state to answer the call by President Biden to launch a statewide Center for Firearm Violence Prevention and Intervention, and we will deal with this issue. So for the people who have said to us that we need to make Maryland safer, I say this to you. We've heard you, and we're moving. Second, we've heard that people want us to make Maryland more affordable. In 2022, Maryland was ranked as the 7th most expensive state to live in. We're not proud of that. But I tell you what, that also tells a story. It's a story of the entrepreneur in Cumberland with a bold idea to create a new business, but who doesn't have the money to make rent this month, let alone start a company. It's a story of the mom in Leonardtown who works multiple jobs just to put food on the table. This year, we will address two big items, not just in the budget of every family in the state, but on the mind of every family in the state: housing and childcare. Most Marylanders in rental properties put a third of their monthly paycheck towards rent. Many can no longer afford to live in the home in the same neighborhood that they grew up in. Our state faces a problem of supply and demand. Prices go up because we do not have enough homes. So building more homes will help to bring prices down. I've introduced 3 housing bills to address that in this session. We will create new financial tools to drive development and redevelopment in communities that need it the most. We will build new pathways to home ownership and wealth creation. We will stand up for renters and confront the harsh truth that Maryland has the highest eviction filing rates in America. We will cut government red tape that makes it harder to build quality housing. We must and we will protect our farmland and our wild habitats. And we need to make sure that we're also incentivizing housing in places where we should build. Guys, this is about lives and livelihoods. We need to make it easier for people to live here, to stay here, and to retire here. And to that end, we've assembled the most comprehensive housing package that any Maryland administration has introduced in years. And we will work together to get it done. But making life easier for working families doesn't end with housing. Last month, the comptroller released a report outlining the affordability problems in our state that families are facing every day. The report highlighted that as the cost of childcare increases, overall female employment decreases by 5%. And that's why our proposed budget includes the single largest investment for funding of childcare in Maryland's history. That investment is going to support 45,000 Maryland children this year. And we can make these investments in childcare and housing without raising taxes on Marylanders. There are leaders in this chamber who have always fought for kitchen table issues. I know because I get to partner with someone who has used her life work for 2.5 decades to make this real. Speaker Adrienne Jones. Because of Speaker Jones, Maryland leads the nation in making prescription drugs more affordable. Because of Speaker Jones, reproductive health care isn't just a right for Maryland women and families. Reproductive health care is more affordable too. My friend, thank you for your leadership. So let the people who said that we need to make Maryland more affordable, all the people who came up to us when we were on the road and say we need our state to be more affordable, I want them to hear me clear too. We've heard you, and we're moving. Third, we heard that people want us to make Maryland more competitive. Last year, we got Maryland's economy moving. We secured federal investments in the Frederick Douglass Tunnel Project. We've ensured that the new FBI headquarters will be located in Prince George's County. We have kept the Orioles in Baltimore for decades to come. We've delivered over $1.4 billion to small and minority-owned businesses through the Board of Public Works. We've provided more than 130,000 laptops to underserved households to narrow the digital divide. And we work to accelerate the clean energy transition in every part of our state and not just some. Now, I'm grateful to President Biden, our federal delegation, and all of the state and local and municipal leaders who have been fighting for these projects since day one. But together, what we showed is Maryland can win this moment. And together, going forward, we will continue to build on our progress. We will invest in industries of the future with funding for life sciences and biotech and data centers and cyber. We will cut red tape so that Maryland is the friendliest state in the nation to start and build a business. We will make reforms to the procurement process so the state of Maryland can be a true partner to entrepreneurs, and we will engage in a robust debate of how Maryland funds transportation projects across the state. Team, we've got to make it easier for people to travel from where they live to where opportunity lies. But the state of Maryland has funded transportation the same way for a decade. That's got to change. To win the next decade, we need to make Maryland the best state in the country for our kids and understand who it is that we're supposed to be fighting for while we're here. When our young people get the tools that they need to strengthen their minds and strengthen their hearts, they grow up to dream and to lead. That's why we must build stronger pathways to success for our young people, no matter what road they choose. We need to work with our friends in labor and our friends in the business community to grow apprenticeships and job training programs. And we need to keep investing in substance use services, mental health, lead abatement, and making sure that we're taking care of our children and their families. And we need to honor our pledge to make Maryland schools the best in this entire country. It is time. It is time. It is time to support our students. It is time to support our educators. And it's time to support our public schools. And that time is now. And that is why, for the second year in a row, our administration has proposed record funding for K-12 schools and fully funded the blueprint for Maryland's future. The blueprint is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. And we can seize that opportunity, but only if we do it in partnership. We must bring together local electeds, school districts, legislators, and yes, the governor's office too. We're going to get this right. We have to. But we have to be clear-eyed, honest, committed, and united in order to make this real. The money's important, but strategy, accountability, and partnership are imperative to get this done right. we've got to spend smarter across all of our state programs in a way that respects the taxpayer, in a way that actually follows data, in a way that responds to the needs of our communities. So last month, we unveiled landmark legislation that's guided by that exact approach. It's called the Enough Act. And we will use it to continue our assault on child poverty, especially concentrated and generational child poverty. Engaging neighborhoods, organizations, unions, governments, and households. That's what Enough stands for. But it's more than an acronym. It's a governing philosophy. We believe that people who are closest to the challenge are the ones who are closest to the solutions. They're just hardly ever at the table. If they offer the vision, we can offer the support and not the other way around. The Enough Act is about moving in partnership to create safe and thriving communities. It's about involving our communities and moving in partnership to support healthy and economically secure families. It's about moving in partnership to ensure access to high-quality education and health care for our children who need and deserve it the most. And I'm proud to stand with leaders who've championed this kind of work for years and who've reached out to communities who've been left behind. I'm talking about people like Chairwoman Vanessa Atterbury, I'm talking about people like President Pro Tem Malcolm Augustine, I'm talking about folks like the members of the Legislative Black Caucus and their fearless leader, Chair Janelle Wilkins. Now it's time to make work, wages, and wealth a reality for every Marylander. Now is the time to drive economic growth in all of our communities, including our communities of color. Now is the time to eliminate the racial wealth gap, and we are going to be unapologetic about it. Because let's be clear, the racial wealth gap is not hurting a group. The racial wealth gap is hurting all of us. Because if we can narrow that gap, we will see how it will increase the GDP of an entire state. And do not take my word for it, take data. We can and we will get this done. So to the people who have said to me that we need to make Maryland more competitive, I say this to you. I hear you. And we've heard you, and we're moving. And fourth, and finally, we've heard the people want us to continue to make Maryland the state that serves. And that means supporting those who every single day run towards danger instead of running away from it. That means standing with our state workers who oftentimes go unsung and go unheard. And that means uplifting the families of those who put everything on the line for us to help keep us safe. We will address each of these goals with policy, and with partnership. This year, we've introduced legislation to ensure our firefighters receive the medical benefits that they deserve. We've worked with unions to deliver a raise to state employees for the second year in a row. And we are working together to ensure that our military families aren't forgotten. You know, when I deployed to Afghanistan, I thought military service and deployments were toughest on the soldiers. I was wrong. It's toughest on the families. And today, I'm thinking about two people who know that struggle. Our Lieutenant Governor, Aruna Miller, and our First Lady, Dawn Moore. Our administration has declared 2024 the year for military families in the state of Maryland. And we will uplift Maryland service members, military spouses, and caregivers, expanding on opportunities for them to work and secure better benefits. And our Lieutenant Governor, the First Lady, and our Secretary of Veterans Affairs, they will lead the charge. This year, we will also double the number of Marylanders in the service year option. Now I'm proud to be up here with a person who started this work before I decided to run for office in the first place, Senate President Bill Ferguson. President Ferguson, thank you for your leadership and for your vision. Maryland Corps paved the way. And together, our state service programs are changing lives. I'm proud that we have one of our founding service year members here in the gallery. His name is Tamir. I love that red shirt, man. He was born and raised in Western Maryland. He is serving in the Asian American Center of Frederick to preserve, yes, woohoo! To preserve and celebrate AAPI history. Tamir, you're not only our present, you're our future. And thank you for making Maryland the best place in the world to change the world. We appreciate you. And thank you. So to all the people who came up to us when we were on the road and said that we need to continue to make Maryland the state that serves, we hear you, and we're moving. Those are the 4 pillars of our success this year. We will make Maryland safer, we will make Maryland more affordable, we will make Maryland more competitive, and we will continue to make Maryland the state that serves. And to get there, we need the partnership of our legislators. We need the partnership of our constitutional officers. We need the partnership of our county executives and our local electeds. We need the partnership of our union leaders and our community stakeholders and our advocates and philanthropies and households and neighborhoods and businesses and, y'all getting a theme, right? We need the partnership for people who are willing to serve not just as our inspirations, but who are willing to serve as our guides. We need the partnership of people like Michelle Taylor. Michelle works in a community health center that treats Marylanders who have been turned away by other providers. Marylanders who are living paycheck to paycheck. Marylanders in the LGBTQIA+ community. Marylanders without health insurance. She's a mother of a beautiful daughter named Dominique. And both of them are with us today. Can you both please stand so we can recognize them? We need the partnership of people like Cleota Walker, Miss Cleo. Go ahead, Miss Cleo. She's so beautiful. Miss Cleo is a village elder in Cherry Hill. Miss Cleo sees the promise in every child, and her mission in life is to steer kids, youth, and adults away from violence and towards opportunity. She believes in the power of partnership. She believes in the power of prevention. And her legacy will endure in the future leaders that she has mentored and guided. And by the way, that beautiful woman is 82 years young, and she is still continuing to push. Ms. Cleo, we appreciate you so much. And we need the partnership of people like Dr. Elizabeth Claiborne. Dr. Claiborne is a mom of two and an adjunct professor at the amazing University of Maryland. She loves teaching medicine. But she always wanted to be an entrepreneur as well. As a woman of color, she struggled to find capital to get her idea off the ground, but just like a good Terp, Dr. Claiborne does not give up. She was 6 months pregnant at the height of COVID and still went to work in the front lines at Prince George's Hospital Center. Eventually, she raised enough money to start her business, and today she is the founder and the CEO of her own medical device company that's focused on helping children and families, and it's located right here in the state of Maryland. God bless you, Doc, and thank you. Michelle, Miss Cleo, Dr. Claiborne, they remind all of us that this work will take all of us. In 1 Corinthians, Paul the Apostle wrote about love. He told us that love is patient and kind. Love keeps no record of being wrong. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Well, I think about partnership the exact same way. Partnership doesn't keep score. Partnership has no ego. And partnership isn't partisan. Partnership is what happened when we all learned about Charlotte Hall. Now, I know everybody in this chamber, regardless of party, was enraged and disturbed when we learned about the level of disregard and neglect that was being shown to our greatest patriots. And Republicans, like Jack Bailey, worked with Democrats like Brian Crosby work together to respond. In our administration, led by Secretary Tony Woods, a combat veteran himself, coordinated with local and state and national leaders to get to work. 3 months ago, I visited Charlotte Hall, and I heard from veterans about how much that teamwork mattered. And one of them said something to me that I will never forget. He said, "We made thank you for your service actually mean something." He was talking about all of us. He was talking about every one of you. Partnership is what we did and what we saw when a storm hit Westminster in August. The rain and the wind knocked down 30 utility poles. 33 adults and 14 children were trapped in their cars for hours under live wires. If one of them would have gotten out of their cars, it would have been catastrophic. But we worked together with local leadership across the political spectrum. We worked with law enforcement. We worked with our remarkable Department of Emergency Management to get the situation under control. I visited Westminster the next morning. And Lieutenant Governor and I, we walked through damage and we walked through debris. I stood there relieved, knowing that all 47 Marylanders got home safely that night. Guys, when things are hard, partnership only becomes more important. We need to stand united with a clear commitment of doing the work, with a clear understanding that the months and the years ahead, they will be hard, but if there is one thing that the last 12 months have taught me is that Marylanders do hard things. And they want us to accomplish those things in partnership. This will be Maryland's decade. Not because we say so, but because we make it so. Together. Thank you. God bless this great state, and let's make sure we leave no one behind.
Governor Wes Moore's State of the State address. Now with the Republican view, Senate Minority Leader Steve Hershey.
Events are back, you guys. Events are back. They're booking speakers like you. They're paying them $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $25,000, and they're back. The world is open. I got an email from a client the other day, actually a former client. He said, "Hey, Taylor, I'd really like for you to come and speak in Guatemala and El Salvador." I said, "I'm interested. You know, what's the offer?" He said, I'll give you business class flights. I'll put you up at really nice hotels."
We believe Governor Moore is sincere when he says that public safety is a top priority of his administration. However, the governor's recently unveiled package of bills focusing on crime in our state merely address enhancing victims' compensation, expanding apprenticeship programs to recruit law enforcement, and creating an Obama-Biden scheme Center for Firearm Violence Prevention and Intervention. To make a real difference, the governor will have to push for a more proactive plan that defines swift and certain consequences for violent criminals, thus preventing Marylanders from becoming victims in the first place. Our vision for Maryland is one where public safety is not just a priority, but the foundation upon which all other aspects of society rest. It is impossible to envision a thriving state without a strong commitment to ensuring that repeat violent offenders are held accountable and that our communities are protected from harm. This vision requires a balanced approach that supports law enforcement and the judicial system in their critical roles. This is why the Joint Republican Caucus has introduced the Safe Communities Act, which will eliminate diminution or good time credits for those convicted of first and second-degree murder. For other crimes of violence, this bill will cap diminution credits to no more than a 10% reduction in sentence as determined by a judge and prohibit bail for an individual charged with a crime of violence if similar pending charges are evidenced. We have also introduced the Violent Firearms Offender Act, which will increase penalties for committing crimes with a stolen firearm, creates penalties for an individual who gives or sells someone a firearm knowing they will use it to commit a crime, and closes the drug dealer loophole. Not surprisingly, 89% of Marylanders support making the theft of a handgun a felony from a simple misdemeanor. This common sense measure was discussed by the governor, but not included in his public safety agenda. We have supported this legislation for the last 4 years and have once again introduced the Gun Theft Felony Act this year. In a little over 1 year, Maryland has gone from a $2 billion budget surplus to a $761 million shortfall that is only projected to grow worse in the upcoming years. While it is a relief that Governor Moore's initial $63.1 billion FY25 budget proposal does not include tax increases, long-term spending is still outpacing revenues, and this budget does not identify a solution to this ongoing dilemma. An exorbitant part of the blame for Maryland's multi-billion-dollar deficit can be put at the feet of the Democrat leadership, which has advanced one-size-fits-all education reform known as the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, also referred to as Kerwin. This alone increased the state's $9.2 billion annual spending on public schools by an additional $40 billion over the next 10 years. In an attempt to make up for undisciplined spending, Democrat legislators are now proposing an omnibus tax increase proposal that would raise taxes on job-creating corporations, raise the state's so-called death tax, and increase the capital gains taxes. Even if these tax hikes were passed, this $1.6 billion annual projection does not incorporate how much revenue would be lost from individuals, businesses, and jobs leaving the state as a result of them. Conversely, Republicans have introduced the Economic Prosperity Act, which would lower the income tax rates and rate brackets, reducing the amount of income taxes paid by all Marylanders. Our bill will increase take-home pay and put more of the hard-earned money back into the hands of Marylanders. Additionally, we will continue to build on our previous year's successes to alleviate the tax pressures on our retirees and those that have served in the military. We recognize that tax cuts are only achievable if we address the expensive mandates from the past and refrain from adding new ones that will further weigh down the budget. We must be disciplined in prioritizing the programs that are cost-effectively achieving their intended results while eliminating or scaling back the ones that are no longer necessary. In the early days of the Moore administration, we have observed, with growing concern, certain decisions and policies that, in our view, could potentially leave some Maryland children at a disadvantage. This is especially true in the realm of education. Maryland prides itself on making record investments in public education, with taxpayer money being allocated in unprecedented amounts. Yet despite these significant financial commitments, the results we are seeing do not seem to align with the level of investment. This discrepancy raises important questions about the efficiency and effectiveness in how our educational resources are being utilized. Furthermore, it is crucial to recognize the diverse needs and circumstances of Maryland families when it comes to education. While some have the means to choose private education for their children, many do not. This disparity led to the establishment of the Broadening Options and Opportunities for Students Today, or BOOST program, aimed at providing scholarships to some of Maryland's most economically disadvantaged students to attend private schools that better meet their needs. The success of the BOOST program is evident in its reach and impact, benefiting thousands of students, including a significant number of children of color and English language learners. Over the stringent opposition of the Maryland's Teachers Union, Republicans have led the efforts to fully fund and expand BOOST. It has never been more clear in Annapolis. The Democrats represent the Teachers Union, while the Republicans represent the parents and students. A thriving economy is crucial for the well-being of everyone in Maryland. Unfortunately, our state ranks amongst the lowest in the nation regarding tax rates, regulatory challenges, and the climate for fostering private sector growth. It is unsustainable to keep imposing heavy burdens on our businesses without expecting some to relocate. Early last month, the Comptroller released Maryland's State of the Economy report, which underscored that Maryland is at a 1.6% GDP growth rate, while neighboring states and the national average are just below 14%. According to the Maryland Chamber of Commerce's Red Book, which provides key indicators of Maryland's business climate, Maryland ranks 47th in the country for the cost of doing business. This is why Maryland Republicans have introduced the Economic Competitive Act, which will reduce Maryland's corporate income tax rate from 8.25% to 6.25% over the next 4 years. Lastly, Maryland should reconsider its approach to environmental policies, particularly the proposal to blindly follow California vehicle emission standards that will ban the sale of gasoline-powered vehicles in Maryland by model year 2035, a move that is sure to have detrimental economic consequences for automotive dealerships and repair shops across the state. Applying such extreme measures without pragmatic consideration once again puts Maryland at an economic disadvantage compared to our neighboring states. To allow time for thoughtful consideration, we have introduced legislation prohibiting Maryland from implementing the new California Advanced Clean Cars Act regulations for an additional 2 years. Under the previous administration, Maryland Republicans were able to demonstrate a clear and irrefutable commitment to fiscal balance, reducing regulations, and cutting taxes. Empirical data illustrates those states with lower taxes, pro-business policies, reasonable regulatory environments outperform other states in job growth, population growth, and income growth. In closing, while we share Governor Moore's desire to transcend partisan divisions and work together for the betterment of Maryland, it is imperative that we also present alternative solutions and ideas. The Republican caucus is committing to advancing legislation that addresses the critical needs facing our state, from ensuring safety and improving educational outcomes to revitalizing our economy. Our proposals are grounded in practical, common sense approaches that we believe will make a positive difference in the lives of Marylanders. We believe that by working together in a spirit of bipartisanship and mutual respect, we can achieve a Maryland that is safe for all its citizens, offers unparalleled opportunities for education, and boasts a dynamic and inclusive economy. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the Republican perspective on the state of the state.
For more on the state of the state and the week in Maryland politics, join us for State Circle Friday evening at 7. For all of us at MPT, I'm Jeff Salkin. Thank you for watching and have a good day.
Watching MPT. Be inspired.
MPT now joins regularly scheduled programming already in progress.
You can watch this program and others from Rick Steves Europe on DVD or high-definition Blu-ray, featuring 6 to 8 episodes per disc. To order, visit ricksteves.com. Want more Rick? At ricksteves.com, you'll find travel news, free audio podcasts, and apps, Rick's blog, and lots more information on touring this destination and many others. It's all at ricksteves.com.
And then
every year, shorebirds take to the sky for a marathon migration.
The way a group looks, the way they move together, it is remarkable.
They follow ancient routes called flyways. But the world beneath their wings is changing.
We see a population that is declining.
We learn from the birds as canaries in the coal mine because they tell a global story that the world has troubles.
Tonight at 8 on MPT. You're watching MPT. Be informed. Be entertained. Be inspired.
Next time.
Where's my mom?
A woman's car is found in the sea, but she's missing.
Every inch needs to be examined.
Marlene is having doubts about being a surrogate.
I'm not going to apologize for being excited about this little life that we're going to create. Just back off.
And Finn's desperation.
He wants 10 grand by the end of the week.
Could lead to more bad decisions.
Find anything?
Hope Street.
Thursday night at 8 on MPT.
Adam Frank joins us to talk about Center Stage's newest shows.
Two shows in particular that I'd love to share are Mexodus, which is a brand new world premiere hip-hop musical by Brian Quijada and Nigel D. Robinson. It really takes the form that Hamilton created of the hip-hop history musical and pushes it to new levels. Those two performers, they wrote and performed the show, and they play all the instruments which are looped together on stage. They make all the sound themselves. The Hot Wing King by Katori Hall, which is a show that won the Pulitzer Prize. It's a new play about preparing for a wing festival in Memphis, and it's the kind of play that is a new classic. So if you're fans of American plays, if you like Tennessee Williams, if you like Lorraine Hansberry, this is like seeing one of their plays new and live.
Who is this girl?
Meet Peregrine Fisher.
You're Franny Fisher's niece.
Peregrine Fisher.
God knows I need a good detective right now.
I'm more than happy to give it a whirl.
She's a real handful.
Make no mistake, it will be a perilous mission.
Friday night at 8 on MPT.
Mouth-watering sukiyaki, delicious seafood teriyaki, deep-tasting ramen. Japanese dishes bursting with flavor and nutrition you can prepare at home. Join culinary experts Tatsuo Saito and Rika Yukimasa for fun and easy step-by-step instructions and tips on Dining with the Chef, only on NHK World Japan.
Watch NHK World Japan now over the air and on Comcast and Verizon.
Its name comes from the legend of Ulysses. It was at the heart of the age of exploration, and even its sidewalks are pretty. Bem-vindos a Lisboa.
Curious Traveler is made possible by the following.
At Regent Seven Seas Cruises, we believe that personal space is essential to the luxury travel experience. With no more than 732 guests, our ships allow you to explore the world and discover the freedom of having space at sea.
Over 300 tours across all 7 continents. Over 40 years of serving travelers. You can experience effortless fun vacations and authentic experiences with Get. GetTours.com.
Windstar Cruises. Intimate, private, yacht-style cruises to the Mediterranean, Caribbean, Tahiti, and more. We look forward to seeing you on board. WindstarCruises.com.
When you travel with us, you are not the typical tourist.
There are many theories to the origin of the name Lisbon. It could be from the Phoenician Alice Ubo, or from Homer's Odyssey, with Ulysses founding his Ulyssepo right here, or from the Hebrew prophet Elisha, or from the Moors' Lishbuna. And if you say Alisubo, or Ulyssepo, or Elisha, or Lisbuna real fast, you can hear how we got to Lisbon and Lisboa. So, here's what I'm curious about in Lisbon. Who are all these guys looking out to sea? And what do they have to do with all the frills on this building? What do the monks of this monastery have to do with this tasty treat? Where can you find the most beautiful bright yellow welcome mat? Why is this castle so important to the history of Portugal? And why are there peacocks living inside it? When did this special type of cross become a symbol of Portugal? And what does it have to do with the age of exploration? And how do these tiny little tiles tell the big history of Portugal? So much to be curious about in Lisbon. We begin our curious exploration into Lisbon at its port. Remember how the Phoenicians named this area Alice Ubo, meaning delightful little port? Well, what a delightful little port it is, and a history-making one too. From these waters, those legendary Portuguese explorers set sail during the age of exploration. As the prosperity of the city grew, leaders needed to welcome important visitors coming into their city, at a place that told in an instant just how successful Lisbon was. I think this big, bright, yellow reception hall of sorts does the trick, kind of like a giant yellow welcome mat. This is the beautiful and bright Praça do Comércio, and it has been greeting visitors to Lisbon for centuries. As you might guess, comércio means commerce, so this used to be the marketplace. And this area is full of curious history. If you can look way up here, you might be able to make out a castle on top of the hill. That's a very important castle because that is where the kings of Portugal lived for centuries. That is, until King Manuel I came along and said, nope, I I want to be closer to the port. So he built his palace, the Ribera Palace, right here. Now, sadly, all of that was destroyed in the 1755 earthquake, but Lisbon will not be defeated. So they built this entire plaza soon after that earthquake, and this plaza remains one of the largest in all of Europe. And I gotta tell you, I really love the yellow. And the crown in the middle of these welcoming yellow arms is Lisbon's triumphal arch, called the Rua Augusta Arch, the gateway to the city beyond. As you cross under it or climb up it, take time to notice the symbolism of the allegories here. We have glory crowning genius and valor, and some pretty important Portuguese explorers whom we will soon meet. But first, we mosey over from the Baixa district to the Belém quarter for some distinctly Portuguese architecture. This exquisite building behind me is, of course, the Jerónimos Monastery, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It sits within the Belém quarter, and Belém simply means Bethlehem, so it is fitting that a church would be here. But not just any church. The original church on this site was built by the Knights Templar in the 12th century. The one you see today was built in the early 16th century and in a very specific style, the Manueline style. What is that, you might say? Well, Manueline is basically Gothic architecture, but with a bit of a Portuguese twist on it. It has certain religious figures, a couple of natural elements, and my favorite part, because it's Portugal, some nautical elements too. The Jerónimos Monastery is one of the most important and cherished buildings in Portugal. Prince Henry the Navigator had a small chapel built here in the 14th century. Portuguese sailors and explorers would often spend their last night here, praying and confessing their sins before embarking on dangerous world voyages the next day. Jerónimos Monastery took about 100 years to build, with more and more wealth coming in from those explorations and the expanding Portuguese Empire. Today, it stands as one of the best examples of that Manueline style of architecture. As you may have guessed, that beautiful, delicate, almost looks like lace, but it's really stone, frilly, fluffy style, is named for King Manuel I. Follow me, I know a few more Manueline elements we can spot. Here at the beautiful church door, there are all kinds of curious symbols to explore. Come on over here. Some of these are the Manueline details we were talking about earlier. Look closely, you can see kind of a cluster of grapes here, some beautiful flowers, and a stone version, at least, of those wandering vines there. And then come on over here, and we've got a pair of lions. And the lion is the symbol of St. Jerome, which gives its name to the Jerónimos Monastery. And my favorite part, because we're in Portugal, everything has to have a nautical theme, so if you look way up high, can you see that pair of mermaids? But as lovely as this style is, it was only used for a few decades. Fortunately, some of the best examples have been preserved, including the Jerónimos Monastery and our next curious stop. So, from the mermaids to the sea, we continue across the Belém district to the water's edge, not to look for mermaids, but to look for more Manueline architecture on one of Lisbon's and Portugal's most important historic landmarks, in the middle of the Tagus River. This is the mighty Belém Tower, one of the most recognizable symbols of the city. King Manuel I had it built basically to protect his riches from any enemy ships that tried to come into Lisbon. And because he had it built, he had to put his symbols on it, of course. So do you see all those crosses there on the fortress? Well, that is a very special type of cross known as the Cross of Christ. And that particular cross became so important, it became known as the Cross of Portugal. In fact, you can see that cross here on the Portuguese flag, with 5 blue shields representing the 5 defeated Moorish kings, and the 5 white dots on each of those shields representing the 5 wounds of Christ. But why did the Knights Templar come to Portugal in the 12th century? Well, it was part of the Second Crusade under Pope Eugene III, who said that crusaders could fulfill their holy duties not by going to Jerusalem, but by pushing out the Moors in the Iberian Peninsula, which included Spain and Portugal. Later, in 1319, King Dinis founded a new order for the Crusaders in Portugal called the Order of Christ, and it became very, very wealthy. In fact, it funded many of the groundbreaking Age of Discovery explorations. To explore that bit of history, we visit a monument that was built as the centerpiece of Portugal's 1940 World Expo. And it is right on the west coast of Lisbon for a very important reason. As we know, Portugal is at the westernmost edge of continental Europe, so it is no surprise that once upon a time, people believed this to be the edge of the entire world. So in the 15th century, it was the Portuguese explorers who led the way in the age of exploration. Of their many accomplishments, they were the first Europeans to sail all the way around Africa and land in Asia. And this monument, the Discoveries Monument, commemorates that. Now, of all the figures on there, can you see one who's a little bit larger than the rest and way up at the top kind of leading the way? Well, that is Prince Henry the Navigator. But let me tell you a little something about old Henry. He never actually navigated anywhere. That's right. Prince Henry the Navigator never actually set foot on one of those expeditions, let alone a new continent. But he did provide funding for some of the most groundbreaking Portuguese explorations in history. Behind Henry are the famous explorers, including Bartolomeu Dias, credited as the first European explorer to sail around the southern tip of Africa. Then there's Vasco da Gama, credited as the first European explorer to travel to India over the Atlantic. And Pedro Alvarez Cabral, credited as the first European explorer to reach South America and Brazil. Cabral's voyages were also the first to touch 4 separate continents: South America, Asia, Africa, and Europe. These journeys helped to map the globe. Next, before Portugal could explore the world, it had to establish a kingdom and a capital. How and where did they do all that? Follow me, I know the exact spot. Remember that castle, the one way up high? It's atop Lisbon's highest hill in the picturesque Alfama neighborhood. So let's climb to the top to get a closer look. But first, pastries. Oh, all right, we'll do the history first, pastry second. Joining us here in the Castello district is local guide Carmo Botello. We are here at the beautiful Castle of St. George, which really should be the Castle of the Peacocks, which we'll explain in a second.
It's a good thing.
Which is hilarious. But let's talk about the history. This location, we've been seeing it as we've been wandering around and visiting your beautiful city here in Lisbon. It's high up on a hill. Who chose this spot? Who first had the castle built?
So we are in the highest hill of Lisbon. We have 7 hills. This is the highest point of the city. Have been always since the first people to establish in Lisbon. So we can talk about Phoenicians, the Greek, the Visigoths, the Suevans. So all them select this hill to be established because you are safe and you have the river close, so you have food and you have protection.
In the 11th century, Arab geographers referred to the castle as the Kasaba, or fortress, but it changed hands in a very important way in the 12th century.
Our first king, Afonso Henriques, was the one responsible to conquer the city to the Moorish. The Moorish, they were living here in the castle, and we are talking about the year 1147. He surrounded the castle during 3 months, and during these 3 months, the Moors were getting out with food. So they opened the doors of the castle and the Portuguese troops entered. So this was the conquest of the city.
So after the Battle of Lisbon, the city becomes Christian, and Lisbon becomes its own independent kingdom in 1143. Then, more than a century later, in 1256, Lisbon becomes the capital of Portugal. And somewhere in between all those kings and countries, we get some peacocks. Some very beautiful but very vocal peacocks. Wait, let's talk about the peacocks. Let's talk about the peacocks. So let's talk about the peacocks, then I'll go back to my other question. So why are there peacocks here at the Castle of St. George?
During our history, we had a king, Alfonso V, that he brought all the exotic animals.
Lions?
Yeah,
and
lions
peacocks?
too, peacocks,
Crazy.
elephants, and we maintain this tradition nowadays.
But I love that. When a king or monarch is that wealthy, they want to show off their wealth, and they're like, well, what is more exotic?
Yeah.
Let's ship in lions from Africa.
And
And
animals.
nuts, but we love it. Before we leave the castle, there's one more spot to explore, showing just how far back in time this location has been occupied, and by so many different tribes, religions, and cultures. The Castle of St. George has so many amazing curiosities, and some of the best stuff is actually seen outside of the castle. Right here is this beautiful, amazing archaeological site that is open to the public, and there's a lot of different areas here. So this first one here, this used to be a gorgeous palace that was unfortunately destroyed during the 1755 earthquake. And then as we make our way around, we actually walk through different time periods. This area here that looks like a big iron box, well, that's actually fitting because inside is the oldest section of the castle complex. Archaeologists believe that this area was a fort that dates back to the 7th century BC. And last but not least, you notice this very modern looking building behind me, this big white box? Well, there's nothing modern about that either. This actually is believed to be some of the most expensive, wealthiest homes in the Islamic area. And how did archaeologists figure out these were wealthy homes? Well, something very important. Toilets. Yes, they found a toilet inside, and that told them it had to be a wealthy family because only the wealthiest families could afford indoor plumbing. Tiles, we take a little side trip west from Lisbon to Sintra to see a palace like no other, full of those iconic Portuguese tiles. From Britain to Austria and all across Europe, the normal color of a castle is just plain gray stone, right? But why be normal when you can have a castle all decked out in orange, purple, and beautiful bright yellow? This, my friends, is the unique, to say the least, Penna Palace, a UNESCO World Heritage Site in Sintra. Built for King Ferdinand II and Queen Maria II in the mid-19th century, the architectural styles run from Moorish to Gothic to Manueline to wonderfully weird. All splashed with every color of the crayon box. Outside, the palace is also surrounded by stunning gardens in the Romanticism style of the time, complete with waterfalls, bridges, and quiet spots for contemplation. And the curiosities continue inside the palace, where we find out the origins of this one-of-a-kind royal retreat. This courtyard is a very important part of the palace. That is because it is not just any courtyard. Does it look a little bit familiar, kind of like a church? Well, that's because it is, sort of. This was actually the cloister part of that 16th century monastery that King Ferdinand purchased to help create his dream palace and park. And all these beautiful Portuguese tiles that you see here, a lot of them were already intact when he purchased the monastery, but of course the king had to add his touches too, because when it comes to those beautiful Portuguese tiles, more is always more. That's right, the palace was built atop an old monastery, and around it too. Just look at all the rooms and wings of the palace. Perhaps the most grand is this one, the Great Hall. So come on in, watch your step. You are invited into the Great Hall. Isn't it great? This is where VIPs would be received here inside the palace. And greeting them, of course, we have this very exotic torchbearer. Now you see the torch he's holding there? That's ornate enough, isn't it? But of course, here in Penna Palace, everything has to be supersized. So that same design there in the torch with the 4 torchbearers is mimicked up here in this amazing chandelier. But that's not even my favorite part. If you look over here at this window, you see it's stained glass. Now we've seen stained glass windows before, but if you look closely, doesn't this look a little bit like a collage? Well, that's because it is. The king collected stained glass from all over Europe to create these two very unique windows. And come a little closer here, you know how the entire palace has the beautiful coverings all along the walls and all along the ceilings? Well, this one really takes the cake because kind of looks like a wedding cake. If you look up here and you kind of see that pink background and that very, very delicate geometric design all done in white, I think it almost looks like lace. How did they do it?
But as wow-worthy as the Great Hall is, after all that entertaining, a royal needs some rest.
This is the king's bedroom, and it's got a couple of elements you might expect in a typical castle and a typical king's bedroom, like this beautiful 4-poster canopy bed with that royal red and gold just for the king. But because it's Penna Palace, there are several elements you wouldn't expect in a regular castle. Just look at the wall behind me. Can you see all these beautiful Moorish designs with all those beautiful natural elements to it? And guess what? Because it's Penna Palace, it extends all the way up to the ceiling. And you can see the patterns upon patterns upon patterns all the way up, almost mimicking the night sky. I bet the king had some really sweet dreams in here.
Speaking of sweet dreams, it's time to wrap up our visit here at Penna Palace and head back to Lisbon for a tasty treat that tells the history.
In old Portugal, of course,
Okay.
but originally the recipe is from Lisbon. Originally comes from the monks that live inside of the Geronimo's monastery.
Ah, so the monks made
Yeah,
them
the
first.
monks made it.
And the reason why the Geronimo's monastery monks made this particular sugary, eggy treat is hilarious. Supposedly, the monks used egg whites to starch their clothing. I know, weird, right? So then they were left with a whole bunch of leftover egg yolks on their hands. Literally. So what's a monk to do with all those yolks? Waste not, want not. Just add copious amounts of sugar from the sugar refinery right next door to the monastery and create a Portuguese pastry icon.
Even more curious about the who, what, where, why, when, and hows of Curious Lisbon. As they say here,
Possible by the following.
At Regent Seven Seas Cruises, we believe that personal space is essential to the luxury travel experience. With no more than 732 guests, our ships allow you to explore the world and discover the freedom of having space at sea.
Over 300 tours across all 7 continents. Over 40 years of serving travelers. You can experience effortless fun vacations and authentic experiences with Get. GetTours.com.
Windstar Cruises. Intimate, private, yacht-style cruises to the Mediterranean, Caribbean, Tahiti, and more. We look forward to seeing you on board. WindstarCruises.com.
When you travel with us, you are not the typical tourist.
And closed captioning provided by TAP Air Portugal.
Still curious? Go to CuriousTravelerTV.com and follow us on Facebook at Curious Traveler TV, on Twitter at Curious Trav TV, and on Instagram at Curious Traveler TV.
On Secrets of the Dead, 58 million years ago, 2 giants engaged in an epic battle.
I had all kinds of wild ideas right away about how large that snake would have been.
This animal was almost 50 feet long.
The Serhom croc gets bigger than any crocodile that we have alive today.
This animal essentially became dinosaur size.
Which beast won the battle? Graveyard of the Giant Beasts on Secrets of the Dead.
Tonight at 10 on MPT.
You're watching MPT. Be inspired.
Catch up on your MPT favorites online anytime. Find them now at mpt.org/video.
Next time.
They offered me the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine.
Martin and Louisa consider a difficult decision.
Wouldn't this be a really good job for you?
Portland's our home. I'm not going to ask you to give that up.
But when rumors quickly spread around town,
He's off to London. Some fancy new job.
Panic sets in.
We're being abandoned.
You wouldn't leave without consulting me first.
Why would I consult with you?
Why wouldn't you consult me?
Doc Martin.
Thursday night at 9 on MPT.
Engaging with our complicated past helps us understand there is no them. There's only us, even when we disagree and are divided. For nearly 50 years, my films have explored American stories. I'm honored to announce that I will return to Gettysburg with my colleagues for a festival of screenings, conversations, and events that look at where we've been, where we are, and most important, of course, where we are going.
You know, you're going to have to make your mind up soon.
I know.
Well, how about a round-the-world cruise?
We can't afford it. Can we?
Well, you'll probably get as far as Malta. Of course, you've got to row back.
No. No, it's not us.
How about Paris or Istanbul?
You're not still going on about the anniversary, are you?
It's 25 years, Cully.
I know, I know.
These days, you're lucky to get 25 weeks.
I vote for the Orient Express to Venice. Something romantic.
No. No, I don't think I want to go away at all. Do you know what I want to do?
Oh, please tell us.
I want to retake my marriage vows.
Do they need retaking?
The first time we got married, it was a registry office, and your father was in the middle of a case.
Ah, the Pimlico poisoner.
You didn't say, I do. You said, I've got it. And that was the last I saw of you until the honeymoon. This time, I want to be the centre of attention. I want flowers and all our friends. And I want you to be my maid of honour.
What? And give you away?
Don't you say it. Yes. Would you?
I'd love to, Mum. I think it's a lovely idea.
You gonna be around?
Oh, I was going to tell you. I got a place on the summer workshop with Simon Fletcher. Dad, he's very well known. He's directed at the Royal Court and with the RSC. He's doing a 2-week summer course at Corston, and I got a place.
Well, that's settled then.
Is it?
Let's book the church.
I'm going over to the church.
Oh, really?
I have a police inspector coming to see me.
Oh, don't tell me, Stephen. You've been found with your hand in the steeple fund.
Don't be ridiculous.
Oh, I was only joking, darling. After all, stealing the small change would be much too daring for you, wouldn't it? So?
No, it's a bit late, but do you think I could have a quick word?
Of course it's not too late, Richard. Come back in.
What about For Those in Peril on the Sea?
What?
You know. Oh, hear us when we cry to thee, for those in peril on the sea.
It's really good, Dad.
Thank you very much.
Yes, but are you saying that our marriage has been some sort of peril?
No, I just like the tune.
Well, it's not appropriate, Tom. You're a policeman, not a sailor.
I'm going to leave you to it.
You going to bed?
No, I've got to read this.
What's that? Well, the Duchess of Malfi.
We're going to be working on it with Simon Fletcher.
It's Jacobean, isn't it?
Very bloody. It's got more murder in it than one of your average working weeks.
No, that's not true. The last murder
All things bright and beautiful. That's got to be one of them. Something cheerful.
Agnes? Agnes?
What is it?
It's Agnes, she's not here.
What?
Oh, where do you think she is?
Well, she probably slipped out to the pub and make a change.
Oh, Reggie.
Well, look, your sister has hardly been out from the day she moved in. Let's make the most of it. Cocoa And bed.
Dr. Henson? What? What are you talking about?
Oh God, who is the author of peace and lover of concord, in knowledge of whom standeth our eternal life, whose service is perfect freedom. Defend us, thy humble servants, in all assaults of our adversaries, that we, surely trusting in thy defence, may not fear the power of any adversaries, through the might of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Simon? Simon? Simon, please? Please?
There's someone in the house.
What is it?
Downstairs. What time is it?
Twenty to 12.
There's someone downstairs.
A burglar?
It must be.
I'll go and catch him. Then you can forgive him.